February 9th, 1945, 1100 hours. Submerged in the icy grip of the North Sea, off the rugged coast of Fedje, Norway, the hull of HMS Venturer creaks under the pressure, a low groan echoing through the dim, sweat-stenched control room. Red emergency lights cast long shadows on the faces of the crew, taut, unblinking eyes fixed on dials that flicker like distant stars. Lieutenant Jimmy Launders, his uniform damp with the perpetual chill, leans over the hydrophone station. You can almost feel the cold metal biting into your palms as he presses the headphones tighter, straining against the ocean's endless hush. A faint thrum cuts through the silence, not the rhythmic pulse of waves or the distant churn of surface ships. No, this is mechanical, deliberate. Propeller cavitation, diesel engines straining at depth. Launders' hydrophone operator, able seaman Alex Aitken, whispers urgently, his voice barely above the hum of the submarine's own electric motors. "Contact, sir. Bearing 045. Sounds like a U-boat, running deep and zigzagging." The air thickens. Hearts pound in chests confined by steel walls. Venturer, a sleek V-class submarine of the Royal Navy, has been patrolling these treacherous waters for days. Her 25-year-old commander, a veteran of 10 war patrols. Launders knows the stakes. Ultra-intelligence from Bletchley Park had whispered of a high-value target, U-864, a massive Type IXD-2 U-boat, slipping through the Allied net, bound for Japan with secrets that could prolong the war. Mercury for weapons, blueprints for jet fighters, even German and Japanese specialists aboard. If she reaches the Pacific, the balance tips. But now, here she is, the enemy, invisible yet audible, lurking in the same abyssal realm. Launders orders silence, absolute, bone-chilling quiet. The crew freezes, even breaths are measured. Venturer glides on batteries, her own diesels offline to avoid detection. The hydrophone spins, plotting bearings. "She's at 150 feet, sir," Aitken reports, sweat beading on his brow despite the cold. "Speed 8 knots, altering course every few minutes." Imagine it. 2 predators in the dark, separated by layers of freezing water, each blind but for the echoes they dare not make. Launders paces the narrow deck, his mind a whirlwind of calculations. No periscope up, too risky. The telltale feather of wake could give them away. This is passive warfare, a game of ghosts. The U-boat's commander, Korvettenkapitän Ralph Raymar Wolfram, a seasoned Kriegsmarine officer with his own kills under his belt, has no idea he's being stalked. U-864, laden with 65 tons of toxic mercury in steel flasks, plows onward, her 73 souls focused on evasion, not confrontation. Hours tick by in agonizing slowness. The control room smells of oil, fear, and unwashed men. Gauges needle dance as Venturer maintains depth, trimming tanks with whispered commands. Launders sketches plots on the chart table, his pencil scratching like a distant torpedo tube flooding. "She's zigzagging to throw off pursuers," he mutters to his executive officer, Lieutenant David Wingfield. But patterns emerge, predictable if you listen long enough. The crew feels it, the mounting tension like a coiled spring in the hull. Every creak could be a depth charge, every ping the end. You wonder, how long can they hold their nerve? Aitken adjusts the hydrophone, refining the contact. "Closing slowly, sir. Range 2,000 yards. Launders nods, his face a mask of calm resolve. But inside, the weight presses down. This isn't a surface skirmish with guns blazing under the sun. This is the deep, where mistakes mean implosion, where the sea claims you whole. As the afternoon wears on, the distant thrum grows clearer, more insistent. U-864 alters course again, a sharp turn to starboard. Venturer mirrors it subtly, maintaining the trail. Launders realizes something profound. Both vessels are fully submerged, locked in a dance no submariner has ever attempted. To fire torpedoes blind, without visual confirmation, unheard of. Yet the opportunity builds, a storm on the horizon. The hydrophone crackles with a new sound, U-864's engine straining harder. Has she detected them? Launders' hand hovers over the torpedo firing panel. The moment teeters on a knife's edge.
The control room of HMS Venturer holds its breath. Lieutenant Jimmy Launders stands motionless, eyes locked on the plot table where grease pencil lines trace the ghost of U-864's path. The German boat has just completed another sharp zigzag, her 7th in the last hour, and the pattern is crystallizing. Wolfram is good, disciplined, but repetition is the enemy of stealth. Every turn brings her fractionally closer. "Range now 1,500 yards, sir," Aitken murmurs from the hydrophone station, voice low enough that only Launders and Wingfield can hear. She's deepening slightly, 200 feet and holding. The operator's fingers tremble as he adjusts the gain. The ocean is a living thing here, currents shifting, temperature layers bending sound like light through glass. One wrong assumption and the prey vanishes. Launders nods once. "Come to new course 090, depth 180, slow ahead both motors." The orders pass in whispers. Venturer responds with the faintest hum, her twin screws biting water so gently the disturbance is barely a sigh. You can picture the crew, faces pale in the red glow, lips pressed tight, hands gripping pipes and rails as if the boat might suddenly lurch and betray them. Time stretches. Minutes become hours. The only clock is the slow sweep of the second hand on the bulkhead chronometer and the rhythmic thump-thump of a distant propeller that never quite fades. Launders does not sit. He calculates firing solutions in his head, feeding fresh bearings to his torpedo officer, Lieutenant Peter Lawrence. No computers, no automation, just slide rules, stopwatches, and the raw geometry of pursuit curves. Then it happens. A sudden change in the enemy's note. The diesels cut out entirely. U-864 has gone to electric motors, silent running. Wolfram has heard something, or suspects. The thrum vanishes, replaced by the faint whine of props turning at minimal speed. The range is now 1,200 yards and closing agonizingly slowly. Venturer's own batteries are draining. Air is growing thick with exhaled carbon dioxide. How long can they stay down before surfacing becomes mandatory? Lost contact momentarily. Aitken hisses, panic edging his voice. Heads snap toward him. Launders raises a hand. Steady. Hold. She'll have to speed up again soon. Snorkel or surface for air. Watch for cavitation. Seconds crawl. A minute. 2. Then, there, a whisper of faster screws. U-864 has resumed her base course, perhaps convinced the faint echo was imagination, but she's altered depth again, climbing to 150 feet, testing the layers, trying to shake an unseen shadow. Launders seizes the moment. Up periscope, just a peek. The brass tube hisses upward on hydraulic rams. He snaps the handles down, spins once. Nothing but gray-green emptiness. No wake, no feather. Good. Back down. They remain unseen. Now the mathematics sharpen. Lawrence plots a three-dimensional solution. Target speed 8 knots. Target depth varying between 150 and 200. Zigzag period approximately 12 minutes. Venturer's 4 bow tubes are loaded with Mark 8 torpedoes, acoustic homing disabled to avoid premature acquisition. This will be a pure, calculated shot, fired blind into predicted water. Launders makes the call. We'll fire a spread of 4 fanned across her probable track, depth setting 180 feet, gyro angles to cover the legs of her zigzag. His voice is calm, almost conversational, but the crew hears the steel beneath it. Torpedo ratings move like ghosts, checking flood valves, spinning wheels to set depths. The range drops to 900 yards, dangerously close for submerged boats. Collision risk is real. One misjudged turn and steel meets steel in the dark. You feel the sweat trickling down spines, the metallic taste of fear. Aitken's head jerks up. She's turning hard to port now. New bearing 270, drawing left rapidly. Wolfram has begun another leg. Launders' eyes narrow. This is it, the window. Standby tubes 1 through 4. The boat tilts almost imperceptibly as final trim is taken. Fire 1. A shudder runs through Venturer's frame as compressed air blasts the first torpedo clear. Fire 2. Fire 3. Fire 4. 4 weapons streak into the blackness, running hot and straight at 20 feet per second, their propellers a rising whine that could betray the hunter as easily as it dooms the hunted. Launders orders an immediate hard turn to starboard and deeper depth. Ears strain for the telltale ticks of acoustic homing, or worse, the enemy counterfiring. The stopwatch begins. Will even one find its mark in this blindfolded duel beneath the waves?
Silence crashes down inside HMS Venturer like a physical weight. The 4 torpedoes are away, their propellers whining into the distance, but to the crew it feels as if the entire ocean has gone mute. Every man stands frozen, eyes wide, mouths dry, listening for the sounds that will decide whether they live or die. Launders snaps the firing panel shut and barks quietly. Hard a starboard, depth 250 feet, rig for silent running. Venturer heels over, diving deeper to escape any counterattack. The boat's electric motors hum at their lowest setting, barely enough to maintain steerage. Pumps are secured, fans cut off. Even the bilge sloshes are stilled by shifting weight. You can almost hear individual heartbeats echoing off the pressure hull. Up on the plot, Lieutenant Lawrence starts the stopwatch. Mark 8 torpedoes run at 45 knots. At 900 yards initial range, time to target should be just over 60 seconds for the closest, perhaps 90 for the farthest in the spread. The fan was wide, 15 degrees between each fish to blanket the zigzag legs. One of them has to cross U-864's path. 60 seconds. Nothing. 70. Still nothing. 80. A faint metallic tick carries through the water. Perhaps a torpedo porpoising. Perhaps imagination. Aitken's headphones are clamped so tight his knuckles are white. Launders stands with arms folded, staring at the deckhead as if he could will the weapons home. 90 seconds. Then, boom! A single sharp explosion rolls through the hull like a thunderclap in a tin box. The deck jumps beneath their feet, lights flicker, dust drifts from overhead pipes. Cheers almost escape throats, but Launders' raised hand stifles them. One hit, but on which leg of the zigzag? Did it strike true or glance off the saddle tanks? Single detonation, sir, Aitken confirms, voice shaking. Bearing 275, range about 800 yards. No breaking up noises yet. No secondary explosions, no rending metal. U-boats are tough. Type 9s especially. A single torpedo might cripple but not kill. Wolfram could still fight back, flood tubes, lucid desperate acoustic shot in their direction. Launders doesn't hesitate. Reload tubes 1 and 3 with fresh fish, quickly but quietly. The torpedo ratings move with practiced urgency, manhandling 21-inch warheads in the cramped space, the clink of chains and hiss of hydraulics sounding obscenely loud in the hush. Minutes crawl by. 5, 10. The hydrophone paints a grim picture. U-864's screws have slowed but not stopped. She's wounded, turning erratically, perhaps trying to limp away or comb the water for her attacker. Cavitation increases. She's blowing tanks, attempting to surface or at least reach snorkel depth for diesels and fresh air. Wolfram knows he's been hit and is fighting for survival. Then Aitken stiffens. High-speed screws, bearing 090, incoming torpedo.
The blood drains from faces. The Germans have fired back, a blind shot into the dark, but the ocean is narrow here. An acoustic Zaunenkönig could home on Venturer's slightest noise. Dive, emergency deep, 300 feet, Launders roars the order. Plainsmen slam the hydroplanes to full dive. Venturer noses down sharply, gauges spinning. The incoming torpedo whines louder, searching. You feel the pressure building in your ears as depth increases. 280, 300. The hull pops and groans. The German fish overshoots, its note rising to a frantic scream before fading astern. Missed, for now. But U-864 is still alive, still moving. Her engines rev harder, desperate flight. Launders brings Venturer back up to periscope depth for a fleeting look. The sea is empty, but hydrophones tell the story. The U-boat is circling, depth fluctuating wildly between 100 and 250 feet. Wolfram is trying everything. Crash dive, blow tanks, erratic course changes to throw off pursuit. Launders' jaw sets. She's damaged, but not finished. We go in again. The hunt resumes, closer now, more intimate. The range closes to under 600 yards, knife fight distance in submarine terms. Both captains know the other is near, both straining for the killing blow. And then the hydrophone reveals something chilling. U-864 has steadied on a new course, screws turning faster. She's making a run for it. Launders smiles without humor. Not this time. Tubes 1 and 3 report ready. Will the second spread finish what the first began?
The range is now perilously close, barely 500 yards. In the black void of the North Sea, that's almost touching. HMS Venturer glides like a shark, her reloaded bow tubes hungry. Lieutenant Jimmy Launders has maneuvered into perfect position, riding just ahead and slightly deeper than the wounded U-864. The German boat's movements are no longer disciplined zigs. They're erratic, desperate lunges as Wolfram fights leaking compartments and failing trim. Aitken's voice cuts through the red-lit gloom, urgent but controlled. Target bearing 080, drawing right slowly, screws turning uneven, one shaft cavitating badly. Depth 180 feet and rising fast, sir. She's trying to blow tacks and get to snorkel depth. Launders sees it all in his mind's eye. U-864's control room in chaos, alarms shrieking, water spraying from ruptured pipes, the acrid stench of chlorine from cracked batteries mixing with the mercury vapors already seeping from shattered flasks. 73 men battling the sea itself now, not just the unseen enemy. Up periscope. The tube rises. Launders catches a fleeting glimpse. Nothing but empty waves above. Back down. She's still fully submerged. Good. We finish this blind. Lieutenant Lawrence has the new solution plotted in seconds. Target speed now only 6 knots. Course unsteady but predictable in its panic. The fan will be tighter this time. 2 torpedoes, set to run at staggered depths. One at 150 feet, one at 200 to bracket the wounded beast. Launders doesn't hesitate. Standby tubes 1 and 3. The torpedo rating's hands hover over levers, faces glistening with sweat. Fire 1. Venturer shudders as the first weapon leaps from the tube. Fire 3. The second follows 20 seconds later, timed to create a crossing pattern no evasion can dodge. Then, evasion. Hard aport, depth 200 feet, silent running. Launders spins the boat away, putting distance between hunter and dying prey. The stopwatch starts again. 30 seconds. 40. 50. And then 2 explosions, almost simultaneous. The first, a deep, concussive whomp that rattles Venturer's hull plates. The second, half a heartbeat later, a monstrous, rolling crump that seems to suck the pressure from the control room. The deck leaps violently. Overhead lights shatter in sparks. Men stagger and grab for handholds. A pressure wave slams through the water like a fist, followed immediately by the unmistakable sound every submariner dreads and craves. The tortured screech of rending steel, bulkheads collapsing, tanks imploding. Breaking up noises. Aitkins rips off his headphones, eyes wide. Multiple secondaries. She's going down by the bow, fast. Screws stopped. Heavy flooding noises, and now, nothing. Silence returns.
But it's different now. Final. Launders allows himself one slow exhale. Secure from silent running. Periscope depth. The tube rises into gray daylight. Launders sweeps the surface. Debris. Oil slicks spreading like black blood. Wooden gratings. Cork insulation. A German naval cap floating amid the flotsam. And then, something that chills even hardened men. Steel flasks of mercury bobbing to the surface, glinting dully, their deadly cargo sealed but forever marking the grave. No survivors, no life rafts. The sea has taken them all. Korvettenkapitan Ralph Remar Wolfram, his officers, the Japanese technicians, the crew. 73 souls gone in an instant. U-864 lies in pieces on the seabed off Fedje Verland, her secret cargo of jet engine parts and missile guidance systems entombed forever. Launders lowers the periscope. His voice is quiet, almost reverent. Secure the watch. Log the action. We've done our duty. The crew finally breathes. A few hands shake. Someone whispers a prayer. But there is no celebration. In the cold depths, 2 submarines fought the only true underwater duel of the war, and only one surfaced to tell the tale. February 9th, 1945. The first and last time a fully submerged submarine deliberately sank another fully submerged submarine. A feat of skill, nerve, and cold mathematics that would never be repeated.
HMS Venturer breaks the surface into the fading Norwegian twilight. The North Sea is calm, almost mocking, gray swells rolling gently over the grave below. Fresh air rushes through the open hatch, sweeping away the stale tang of sweat and battery acid. Lieutenant Jimmy Launders climbs the conning tower ladder, binoculars in hand, the wind whipping his salt-crusted uniform. He scans the horizon once more. Only the widening oil slick and scattered debris mark where U-864 met her end. No cheers rise from the crew as they gather on deck for a cautious breath of freedom. Just quiet glances, nods, the slow release of tension held for hours. They know what they've done, pulled off something unprecedented in naval history, but the cost hangs heavy. 73 men gone in seconds. Enemies, yes, but submariners all the same, brothers in the perilous trade of the deep. Launders lights a cigarette with steady hands, the flame briefly illuminating his young face. 25 years old, already a Distinguished Service Order recipient, now the only commander ever to sink a submerged enemy submarine with another submerged submarine. He doesn't feel like a hero. He feels the weight of decisions made in the dark, calculations that ended lives and perhaps shortened the war by denying Japan vital German technology. Venturer sets course for home, Lerwick in the Shetlands, then onward to the submarine base at Holy Loch. The patrol report will be terse, factual. 9 February 1945. Action against U-boat in position 60 degrees 46 minutes north, 04 degrees 36 minutes east. 4 torpedoes fired in first salvo, 1 hit. 2 torpedoes fired in second salvo, both hit. Target destroyed, no survivors observed. Back in Britain, the Admiralty receives the signal with quiet satisfaction. Ultra decrypts had revealed U-864's mission, Operation Caesar, delivering ME-262 jet engine components, missile guidance systems, and experts to bolster Japan's faltering war effort. Her loss is a strategic blow the Axis will never fully grasp. The European war ends just 3 months later. In the Pacific, 6 months after that. Historians will later argue that intercepting U-864 helped prevent Germany's most advanced technology from extending Japan's resistance. But for decades, the engagement remains classified, buried in secret files. Jimmy Launders returns to civilian life modestly, becoming a hotel manager in Scotland, rarely speaking of the war. His crew disperses into peacetime anonymity. The story fades into footnotes.
Then, in 2003, the Norwegian Navy discovers the wreck. Side-scan sonar reveals U-864's broken hull in 150 meters of water off Fedje Island. Split in two, bow section upright, stern twisted. Steel flasks of mercury lie scattered across the seabed, leaking poison into the ecosystem. A decades-delayed environmental crisis emerges, tons of toxic metal threatening fisheries and coastal communities. Norway spends years debating, raise the wreck and risk dispersing more mercury, or encase it in a sarcophagus of sand and concrete. Millions are spent on surveys, remotely operated vehicles filming the shattered conning tower, the still loaded torpedo tubes. Divers never approach, the danger is too great. And in those haunting images, the world finally sees the battlefield, a silent graveyard where two submarines danced a deadly waltz, blind and submerged, on that frozen February day in 1945. Launders' feet, firing torpedoes in a calculated three-dimensional spread to intercept a zigzagging target moving unpredictably in depth and course, stands alone. No other naval engagement like it exists in either world war. It was the perfect storm of intelligence, audacity, acoustics, and mathematics under imaginable pressure. Jimmy Launders passed away in 1988, carrying the memory quietly to his grave. But the sea remembers. Deep beneath the waves off Norway, two steel tombs rest side by side, one hunter, one hunted, locked forever in the only underwater submarine duel the world